Fellow wanderers of Middle-earth, gather close as we venture into the most perplexing enigmas that Tolkien embedded within his legendarium. Questions so profound that decades of scholarship have only deepened rather than resolved the mysteries surrounding them. Before we begin this journey through Middle-earth's greatest unsolved puzzles, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is there. I love knowing we're exploring these mysteries as a global fellowship. And if these deep dives into the unanswered questions of Tolkien's world speak to your soul, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community seeking the hidden truths within Middle-earth's deepest enigmas. Tonight, we're confronting 10 of the most baffling mysteries that continue to perplex readers. Scholars, and even Tolkien himself, seemed uncertain about resolving. We begin with perhaps the most enigmatic figure in all of Middle-earth, Tom Bombadil, the being whose very existence challenges every assumption about power, authority, and the fundamental nature of good and evil in Tolkien's carefully constructed universe. Tom Bombadil defies categorization in ways that go far beyond simple eccentricity or magical ability, representing something so fundamentally different from every other consciousness in Middle-earth that scholars have struggled for decades to place him within any coherent framework of understanding. He appears to be simultaneously the most powerful and the least concerned with power, the most ancient yet the most childlike, the most connected to the natural world yet operating according to principles that seem to transcend nature itself. The mystery begins with his complete immunity to the ring's influence, demonstrated when he slips it onto his finger without disappearing, tosses it carelessly into the air, and hands it back to Frodo with no more interest than he might show in a pretty pebble. This immunity isn't the hard-won resistance of someone who has struggled against temptation, but the natural indifference of a being for whom the concepts of possession and domination simply don't apply. His relationship to time reveals equally puzzling characteristics, as he claims to remember the first raindrop and the first acorn, yet speaks of these ancient memories with the fresh delight of someone experiencing them for the first time. He appears to exist simultaneously within time's flow and outside it entirely, aging neither forward nor backward, but maintaining a constant state of temporal presence that defies normal understanding of how consciousness relates to duration and change. The songs that seem to give him power over the natural world operate according to principles that remain completely mysterious, working not through the kind of magical formulas that characterize elvish enchantments or wizardly spells, but through what appears to be direct communication with the fundamental forces that govern reality itself. When he commands Old Man Willow to release the hobbits, trees and streams respond not to supernatural compulsion, but to recognition of an authority so natural and ancient that resistance becomes impossible. Perhaps most puzzling of all is his relationship to responsibility and moral engagement with the larger conflicts that shape Middle-earth's destiny. He possesses what appears to be unlimited power to affect the course of events, yet chooses to confine his activities to a small region where he tends his gardens and plays with his beloved gold berry, seemingly indifferent to the cosmic struggles between good and evil that consume every other conscious being. The theories about his true nature range from suggestions that he represents Eru Iluvatar himself walking in physical form, to speculation that he embodies the music of creation made manifest, to proposals that he exists as the uncorrupted spirit of Middle-earth itself. maintaining the connection between the physical world and its divine origins. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the combination of ultimate power and complete detachment that characterizes his every interaction with the world beyond his borders. The complete disappearance of the Entwives presents Middle-earth with a mystery of an entirely different nature, one defined not by puzzling presence, but by haunting absence. A void so complete that even the ancient Ents who remember the world's youth can offer nothing more than speculation and endless sorrow about what became of their beloved companions. Unlike other mysteries that tease us with clues and partial answers, the fate of the Entwives presents us with an absence so complete that even the wisest beings in Middle-earth can offer nothing more than speculation and sorrow. The tragedy begins in the fundamental difference between how male and female Ents approached their relationship with the growing world. A divergence so profound that it eventually drove them apart, despite their deep love for one another. The Ents loved the wild forests, the untamed places where trees grew according to their own ancient wisdom, vast wilderness areas where the original patterns of creation could express themselves without interference or guidance from conscious will. But the Entwives were drawn to cultivation, to the patient art of helping plants achieve their fullest potential through careful tending and wise intervention. They created gardens of legendary beauty where every flower and fruit tree grew in harmony with its neighbors, where the principles of growth and nourishment found their most perfect expression through the marriage of natural law and conscious care. This difference in approach should have enriched both peoples, providing complementary perspectives on how consciousness could best serve the flourishing of all life. For ages, it did exactly that, with Ents and Entwives sharing their discoveries and learning from each other's unique relationships with the green world. Their separate domains thrived under their different forms of stewardship, creating a diversity of landscapes that celebrated every possible way that trees and gardens could achieve beauty. The mystery begins with the gradual breakdown of communication between these separated communities, a process so slow that neither side recognized the danger until contact had been completely severed. The Ents, absorbed in their vast forests and their patient councils, assumed the Entwives were simply busy with their gardens and would resume regular contact when their current projects reached completion. The Entwives, focused on perfecting their cultivation techniques and expanding their agricultural experiments, believed the ENC were content in their wild places and would visit when they felt the need for companionship. By the time both groups realized that seasons had turned to years and years, to decades, without any meaningful exchange, the geographical distance between their domains had become impassable through normal means. Wars had altered the landscape, rivers had changed course, entire regions had fallen under the influence of hostile powers that made travel between the separated communities impossible for beings whose nature tied them so completely to specific locations. The last confirmed sighting of Entwives occurred during the final years of the Second Age, when refugees fleeing various conflicts reported seeing beings who tended gardens with supernatural skill in regions that would later be devastated by the wars that preceded Sauron's defeat. After that point, every search has revealed only empty gardens, abandoned settlements, and landscapes that show signs of having once been cultivated with extraordinary care, but now lie barren or overgrown. The Ents continued searching represents one of the most heartbreaking aspects of Middle-earth's ongoing sorrows. Ancient beings who should be focused on the care of their forests instead, wandering far from their proper domains in pursuit of companions who may no longer exist in any form that could be recognized or reunited with their former partners. The eastern reaches of Middle-earth conceal perhaps the most tantalizing mystery involving the Istari themselves, the complete disappearance of LOTR and Palando, the blue wizards whose mission to the distant lands beyond the Sea of Rune has become a puzzle that even Tolkien himself seemed uncertain how to resolve. While Gandalf's adventures and Saruman's betrayal fill the histories of the Western lands, these two figures vanished so thoroughly that even their names became uncertain, leaving behind only contradictory fragments and endless speculation about what became of their crucial assignment. The very nature of their mission reveals how little the wise understood about the scope of Sauron's influence in regions where most inhabitants of Gondor and Rohan had never traveled, while three wizards remained to guide the free peoples in territories where the Dark Lord's methods were relatively straightforward. Two were dispatched into lands where his corruption had operated for millennia through techniques so sophisticated that conventional resistance had proven useless. Tolkien's own notes about their fate shifted dramatically over the years, reflecting his uncertainty about whether their story should end in heroic sacrifice, noble failure, or something far more disturbing. In some versions, they established cults and magical societies that helped diminish Sauron's influence among the peoples of the Far East and South. In others, they themselves became the founders of mystery religions that served darkness while believing they served light. The geographical scope of their mission staggers the imagination. When considered against the vast distances involved and the cultural complexities they would have encountered, the eastern lands stretched far beyond the Sea of Rune into territories that connected to the distant regions where the sun first rises, encompassing civilizations that had developed for millennia under influences completely different from those that shaped the Western kingdoms. Unlike their colleague wizards, who could rely on existing relationships with elves, established kingdoms, and shared cultural frameworks for understanding the nature of good and evil, the blue wizards entered regions where Sauron's agents had spent centuries or millennia, establishing alternative definitions of power, wisdom, and spiritual authority. The very concepts that made resistance possible in the West might have no equivalent in languages and cultures shaped by entirely different assumptions about reality. The timeline of their disappearance adds another layer to the mystery. As various sources suggest, they may have lost contact with the Western lands anywhere from several centuries to over a millennium before the War of the Ring. This means their fate was already uncertain during the very period when their mission should have proven most crucial. When Sauron's final assault on the Free Peoples demanded coordinated resistance from every possible quarter, the possibility that they succeeded in their mission while remaining forever unknown to Western histories offers one form of resolution to their mystery, suggesting that the victory of the War of the Ring may have depended partly on their hidden achievements in lands whose contributions to the final outcome will never be recorded or celebrated. But equally plausible scenarios involve their corruption, capture, or death in circumstances so remote that no word could ever reach the communities that sent them forth. Perhaps most intriguingly, Some evidence suggests they may have transcended their original mission entirely, discovering purposes and priorities in the Eastern lands that made their original instructions irrelevant, evolving into something that served neither Sauron nor the Valar, but responded to needs and opportunities that existed only in the specific contexts they encountered, far from any familiar authority or guidance. The dark pool before the west gate of Moria conceals one of Middle-earth's most disturbing enigmas: the nature and origin of the tentacled creature that attacked the Fellowship, a being so alien to everything else in Tolkien's bestiary that it raises fundamental questions about what other ancient horrors might lurk in the forgotten places of the world. The brief but terrifying encounter with these writhing appendages emerging from seemingly lifeless water represents our only glimpse into a category of creatures that appears to predate every other form of conscious life in Middle-earth. The creature's behavior during the attack suggests intelligence far more sophisticated than mere predatory instinct, as it specifically targeted the ring-bearer while largely ignoring his companions, demonstrating an awareness of supernatural significance that implies connection to powers and purposes beyond simple hunger or territorial defense. The precision with which it seized Frodo, while the others remained relatively unmolested, indicates not random aggression, but calculated intervention based on knowledge that no ordinary lake-dwelling monster should possess. The physical description of the creature defies easy categorization within any known family of Middle-earth's fauna, resembling neither the corrupted beasts that serve obvious evil nor the natural creatures that inhabit rivers and lakes throughout the world. The 20 or more tentacles that emerged from the water suggest something fundamentally different from anything created according to the normal patterns established during the music of the Ainur, as if these beings originated from entirely separate principles of existence. The age implied by the creature's presence raises equally disturbing questions about what other remnants from earlier ages of the world might persist in places where the normal processes of change and renewal have been suspended or corrupted. The stagnant nature of the water itself, its unnatural stillness, and the way it seemed to resist the normal flow of streams and drainage suggests that the lake serves not as a natural habitat but as a deliberately maintained environment designed to preserve things that should have perished long ago. The creature's apparent connection to the gates of Moria implies a relationship between its presence and the ancient evils that dwelt within the mountain, though whether it served as guardian, prisoner, or independent predator sharing the same general territory remains completely unclear. The timing of its attack, coinciding precisely with the Fellowship's attempt to enter the abandoned kingdom, could represent either coincidence or coordination with other hostile forces aware of their mission. The folk memory that led the local inhabitants to avoid the area entirely suggests that encounters with these watchers had occurred before, creating a tradition of fear that passed from generation to generation, even when the specific reasons for that fear had been forgotten. This implies a long history of predation or threat that extends far beyond the single incident witnessed by the Fellowship. Most unsettling of all is the possibility that this creature represents not a unique horror, but an example of an entire category of beings that inhabit similar dark waters throughout Middle-earth. Ancient things that predate the familiar conflicts between good and evil, and operate according to entirely different principles of existence. The plural form watchers used by local inhabitants suggests awareness of multiple such creatures, raising the terrifying prospect that every stagnant pool or forgotten lake might conceal similar threats. The creature's ability to sense the ring's presence from beneath the water implies sensory capabilities that transcend normal physical perception, suggesting connection to the same supernatural networks that allow other servants of darkness to detect and respond to threats to their master's plans. At the very edge of creation itself stands perhaps the most cosmically significant mystery in all of Tolkien's legendarium: the nature of what exists beyond the doors of night. Those ultimate boundaries that mark where the created world ends and something else entirely begins. This mystery operates on scales so vast that even the Valar speak of it only in whispers, touching questions about the fundamental structure of reality that go far beyond the familiar conflicts between good and evil that define most of Middle-earth's history. The doors of night represent more than mere geographical boundaries, serving as the metaphysical limits of everything that Eru Ilúvatar brought into being through the music of the Ainur, the absolute edge beyond which the harmonies of creation give way to something that may not qualify as existence in any recognizable sense. When Irindale sails his ship Vinglot through the heavens, when the sun and moon follow their appointed courses, they move within spaces that remain bounded by these cosmic barriers, never venturing into whatever realm lies beyond their protection. Morgoth's fate after his final defeat involved banishment through these doors into the void that lies beyond them, a punishment that represents something far more terrible than simple exile or imprisonment, as it removes him from creation entirely rather than confining him within it. The implications of this banishment raise disturbing questions about the nature of the void itself and whether anything that enters it can be said to continue existing in any meaningful sense. The prophecy of Dago Dagroth, the final battle that will occur at the end of time, suggests that Morgoth will somehow return from beyond the doors of night to lead one last assault against creation itself, implying that the void either preserves consciousness in some form or provides conditions under which beings can survive and even grow in power while remaining completely cut off from everything they once knew. The relationship between the doors of night and the straight road that leads to the undying lands reveals additional layers of mystery, as ships that sail west from the Grey Havens somehow pass through or around these cosmic boundaries without being destroyed or banished like Morgoth, suggesting that different forms of passage are possible for different types of beings under different circumstances. The stars that shine in Middle-earth's sky exist within the boundaries established by the doors of night, yet their light originates from sources so distant that their relationship to the familiar geography of Arda remains completely unclear, raising questions about whether the created world extends far beyond the lands depicted in any maps or encompasses only a small portion of what lies within the cosmic boundaries. Some passages in Tolkien's work suggest that the music of creation continues beyond the doors of night, implying that Eru's creative activity extends into realms that remain forever inaccessible to any consciousness that originated within the bounded world. Yet these references remain so obscure and contradictory that their meaning can only be guessed at, rather than definitively established. The terror that this mystery inspires in even the mightiest beings of Middle-earth stems not from any specific threat it poses, but from its representation of ultimate unknowability. The reminder that creation itself exists within boundaries, beyond which consciousness cannot venture without ceasing to be what it fundamentally is, making the void both the source of ultimate fear and the destination of ultimate punishment. The possibility that other creations, other worlds, other forms of existence entirely might exist beyond the doors of night opens up prospects so vast that they threaten to reduce all of Middle-earth's struggles to insignificant episodes within a cosmic drama whose scope and purpose remain completely beyond mortal comprehension. Hidden within the ranks of the 9 Nazgul lies a mystery that has captivated scholars and readers for decades. The true identity of the Witch King of Angmar, whose original name and kingdom Tolkien deliberately concealed, leaving only tantalizing clues about which great ruler of men became Sauron's most terrible servant. This carefully guarded secret represents more than mere historical curiosity, touching on profound questions about the nature of corruption and why certain individuals prove uniquely susceptible to the specific temptations that the rings of power represent. The evidence scattered throughout Tolkien's writings suggests that the Witch King began his mortal existence as one of the great Númenórean kings during the island's golden age, a ruler whose wisdom and justice had earned genuine love from his people and whose authority rested on the voluntary recognition of his superior judgment rather than fear or coercion. This background would have made him the perfect candidate for the particular form of corruption that his ring was designed to achieve. The ring he received differed fundamentally from the other 8 given to mortal men, crafted specifically to exploit the psychological vulnerabilities that arise from wielding legitimate authority over others. Where the other rings worked primarily through personal desires for extended life or enhanced power, his ring attacked the more complex structures that govern responsible leadership, gradually transforming care for subjects into possessiveness and justice into arbitrary dominance. His elevation to supremacy among the 9 resulted not from superior strength or magical ability, but from the completeness of his spiritual transformation. The way his ring succeeded in preserving his essential nature as a king, while redirecting every royal quality toward serving darkness rather than light. His strategic genius, once employed to protect his people from external threats, became the foundation for campaigns that would systematically destroy entire kingdoms across centuries of patient warfare. The kingdom he originally ruled may have been one of the Númenórean colonies established in Middle-earth during the Second Age, territories where the island's advanced civilization could extend. Its influence while remaining connected to the homeland's cultural and political networks. His intimate knowledge of both Númenórean strengths and weaknesses would have made him invaluable too. Sauron's long-term planning for the island's eventual downfall. The timing of his corruption suggests it occurred during the period when Sauron walked openly among the Númenóreans as their advisor, allowing the Dark Lord to study potential candidates for the 9 rings with unprecedented access to their psychological profiles and political situations. The future Witch King would have been observed and evaluated for years before receiving his ring, ensuring that his specific combination of virtues and vulnerabilities aligned perfectly with Sauron's requirements. His transformation from wise ruler to terrible wraith represents the most complete inversion of noble qualities into their dark mirrors that appears anywhere in Tolkien's work. demonstrating how the highest forms of human achievement can become the most effective instruments of cosmic destruction when subjected to sufficient corruption. His supremacy among the Nazgul derives not from being the most evil in any crude sense, but from being the most perfectly corrupted. The deliberate concealment of his original identity serves important thematic purposes, preventing readers from dismissing his fall as the result of obvious character flaws, while emphasizing that corruption can claim even the most worthy individuals under the right circumstances. His anonymity transforms him from a specific historical figure into a universal warning about the vulnerabilities that leadership itself creates in those who wield it. Deep within the heart of the Old Forest stands one of Middle-earth's most inexplicable manifestations of malevolence, Old Man Willow, a tree whose consciousness harbors such focused hatred for all walking beings that it challenges every assumption about the relationship between plant life and moral choice. This ancient willow represents something unprecedented in Tolkien's natural world, a form of evil that appears to have emerged from within the forest itself rather than being imposed by external corruption or supernatural influence. The mystery begins with the fundamental question of how a tree, a being whose nature should align it with the patient wisdom and nurturing growth that characterizes most plant consciousness in Middle-earth, could develop such sophisticated malice toward creatures whose existence poses no genuine threat to its survival or well-being. Unlike the corruption that transformed elves into orcs or kings into Nazgul, Old Man Willow's evil appears to have no external source, number, ring, or dark lord responsible for perverting an originally good nature. The tree's methods reveal an intelligence far more complex than simple territorial aggression or predatory instinct, demonstrating careful planning and psychological manipulation in its approach to capturing and tormenting victims. The way it lulls travelers into false security with its drowsy influence, gradually drawing them closer until they can be trapped within its trunk, suggests not just hunger but deliberate sadism, a genuine enjoyment of the fear and helplessness it creates in conscious beings. The old forest itself seems to respond to Old Man Willow's presence as if acknowledging some form of legitimate authority, with other trees and plants participating in the general hostility toward intruders, despite lacking the willow's focused malevolence. This suggests that the tree's corruption has somehow earned recognition from the broader forest community, implying either that its evil serves purposes the other plants understand and approve, or that its influence has gradually reshaped the entire ecosystem according to its own twisted priorities. The temporal scope of Old Man Willow's malevolence raises additional questions about the duration and development of tree consciousness, as the evil it embodies appears to have deepened and refined itself over centuries or millennia of patient cultivation. Unlike corrupted beings whose evil burns bright and brief, the willow's hatred has had time to mature into something more sophisticated and terrible than any momentary passion or external influence could produce. Tom Bombadil's power over the tree provides the only glimpse into what forces might be capable of restraining such ancient malevolence. Yet even Tom's intervention seems to represent temporary containment rather than genuine reformation or healing. The willow responds to Tom's commands but shows no sign of actual repentance or change, suggesting that its evil has become so fundamental to its nature that even the most powerful benevolent influence can only suppress rather than cure it. The relationship between Old Man Willow and the horns of Fangorn reveals disturbing possibilities about what other trees throughout Middle-earth might harbor similar potentials for malevolence, though most lack either the willow's focused intelligence or its opportunities to act upon hostile impulses. The existence of one genuinely evil tree implies that plant consciousness, despite its generally peaceful nature, remains capable of moral choice and therefore moral failure. The tree's apparent immortality means that its hatred has the potential to outlast every other form of evil in Middle-earth, persisting long after rings have been destroyed and Dark Lords defeated, representing a form of corruption so deeply rooted that it might survive every other resolution of the conflicts between good and evil that define the current age. The Grey Havens conceal one of the most metaphysically profound mysteries in all of Middle-earth: the nature of the straight road that allows certain ships to sail west from the mortal lands and somehow reach the undying lands, despite the fundamental alteration of the world's shape that should make such journeys impossible. This pathway represents something far more complex than a hidden sea route, operating according to principles that transcend normal geography and challenge every assumption about the relationship between physical space and spiritual destination. The mystery deepens when we consider that the world was broken and made round after Numenor's destruction, permanently severing the physical connection between Middle-earth and Valinor that had previously allowed direct travel between the mortal and immortal realms. Yet somehow, ships departing from Círdan's harbor continue to reach their intended destination, following a route that exists simultaneously within the curved world and beyond it, accessible only to those who possess the proper authority or spiritual preparation for such a journey. The selectivity of this road raises equally puzzling questions about what determines who can successfully follow it, and who remains trapped within the normal boundaries of the spherical world. Elves departing for the undying lands seem to navigate it naturally, as if their immortal nature provides automatic access to pathways that remain hidden from mortal perception. But the inclusion of Frodo, Sam, and presumably Gimli among those who successfully complete the journey suggests that mortality itself doesn't disqualify travelers, provided they meet other criteria that remain largely undefined. The Ring-bearer's special access to this route implies that exposure to certain forms of supernatural power creates permanent alterations in consciousness that enable perception of realities normally hidden from both mortal and immortal awareness. The wounds that Frodo received from the Morgul blade and the Shelob's sting may have done more than simply cause physical or spiritual damage, potentially opening forms of perception that make navigation of the straight road possible for someone whose hobbit nature would otherwise exclude him from such journeys. The temporal aspects of travel along this mystical route present additional layers of mystery, as stories of ships that sail west suggest journeys that occur simultaneously within normal time and outside it entirely, reaching destinations that exist in different relationships to duration and change than anything found within the circles of the world. Those who depart may experience the voyage as lasting days or weeks while centuries pass in Middle-earth, or conversely may arrive in the undying lands, to discover that no time has elapsed despite subjective experiences of extended travel. The role of invitation in determining access to the straight road suggests that successful passage requires not just individual preparation, but some form of permission or recognition from authorities that govern the boundaries between different realms of existence. The white ship that carries the ring bearers westward operates according to schedules and destinations that appear to be coordinated by powers whose scope extends far beyond anything visible to those who remain in Middle-earth. The possibility that other straight roads exist, connecting different points in the curved world to destinations that lie outside normal space, opens up prospects for forms of travel and communication that could revolutionize understanding of Middle-earth's relationship to the broader cosmic order. Some hints in Tolkien's work suggest that certain paths through forests or mountains might provide similar access to realms that exist parallel to, but separate from, the familiar geography of the mortal world. The ultimate destination of the straight road remains as mysterious as the journey itself, with descriptions of the undying lands providing only glimpses of what awaits those who complete the voyage successfully. The fiery destruction of Durin's Bane on Eagle's Peak raises a haunting question that Tolkien left deliberately unanswered. What became of the other Balrogs who served Morgoth during the Elder Days? Those terrible demons of shadow and flame whose numbers once struck fear into the hearts of even the mightiest elder. The fall of the Balrog of Moria represents only the most recent destruction of beings whose original count ranged from 3 to 7 according to Tolkien's various notes, leaving scholars to wonder whether others still lurk in the hidden places of the world. The Balrog's nature as corrupted Maya means their destruction requires more than simple physical death, as their spiritual essence transcends the flame-wreathed forms they inhabit during their manifestations in the physical world. When Glorfindel fought his Balrog to mutual destruction at the fall of Gondolin, when Ecthelion perished, slaying another during the same battle, these victories eliminated specific threats but left open questions about whether the underlying spiritual entities were truly destroyed, or merely forced to retreat into less accessible realms. The binding of Morgoth at the end of the First Age scattered his remaining servants according to their individual natures and capabilities, with some fleeing to distant regions while others concealed themselves in the deep places of the earth, to await their master's prophesied return. The Balrogs, being among his most powerful and intelligent servants, would have possessed both the wisdom to recognize the necessity of concealment and the supernatural abilities required to hide effectively from the forces that sought to eliminate all traces of his influence. The geological evidence of Balrog presence suggests these beings require specific environmental conditions to maintain their physical manifestations, preferring the deep places where ancient fires still burn and the boundaries between the spiritual and material worlds remain thin. This preference for subterranean realms means that vast areas of Middle-earth's underground regions remain unexplored, potentially harboring dormant demons who await either their master's return or opportunities to emerge when the vigilance of their enemies relaxes. The systematic exploration of abandoned dwarf kingdoms and forgotten mines throughout Middle-earth has revealed numerous sites where ancient excavations were abandoned suddenly, leaving behind evidence of encounters with forces too terrible to face. While some of these mysteries can be attributed to other forms of ancient evil, the specific patterns of destruction found in certain locations suggest conflicts with beings whose power and malevolence match descriptions of Balrog activity. The temporal scope of Balrog hibernation or concealment could extend far beyond normal understanding of how long even immortal beings can remain dormant, as their connection to the fundamental forces of destruction might enable forms of suspended existence that transcend the normal requirements of consciousness or physical maintenance. A Balrog that withdrew into deep concealment at the end of the First Age could theoretically remain hidden for thousands of years without suffering any diminishment of its essential power. The prophecy of Dagor Dagorath, the final battle at the end of time, specifically mentions the return of creatures and forces that were thought destroyed during earlier conflicts, suggesting that some Balrogs may have achieved forms of concealment so complete that they exist outside normal time and space, waiting for the cosmic conditions that will enable their return to active participation in the eternal struggle between creation and destruction. The possibility that Balrogs learned to disguise their true nature and operate through more subtle forms of influence opens up disturbing prospects for corruption that has shaped events throughout Middle-earth's history without revealing its supernatural source. Demons whose intelligence enabled them to abandon obvious manifestations of power in favor of methods that achieve their destructive goals while avoiding detection. In the shadowed spaces between life and the halls of Mandos dwell perhaps the most tragic figures in all of Middle-earth's spiritual landscape: the houseless dead, those souls who have refused or been unable to answer the call that summons all spirits to their appointed rest, instead lingering in the mortal world as prisoners of their own unfinished desires or unresolved sorrows. These wandering spirits represent the deepest mystery about the nature of death itself and what choices remain available to consciousness, even after the body's final failure. The existence of these houseless souls challenges fundamental assumptions about the cosmic order that governs the relationship between mortality and eternity, suggesting that even divine summons can be resisted by wills strong enough or desperate enough to choose continued existence in diminished form over the unknown possibilities that await in the halls of the dead. Their persistence in the physical world creates pockets of spiritual disturbance that affect the living in ways both subtle and profound. Some of these lingering spirits attach themselves to locations that held deep meaning during their mortal existence, becoming the ghostly presences that haunt battlefields, abandoned homes, or sacred sites where their strongest emotions were experienced or their most significant choices were made. Their connection to these places can persist for centuries or millennia, creating atmospheres of unease that warn sensitive visitors of supernatural presence even when the spirits themselves remain invisible. Others among the houseless dead become wanderers who drift across Middle-earth's landscapes, driven by purposes they can no longer clearly remember or fulfill, their consciousness gradually fragmenting under the weight of existence without physical form or clear spiritual destination. These lost souls may encounter the living as barely perceptible influences that inspire melancholy, restlessness, or sudden inexplicable fears in those whose spiritual sensitivity makes them vulnerable to such contact. The most dangerous of the houseless dead are those who have learned to maintain coherent consciousness and active will despite their lack of physical form. Spirits whose refusal to accept death has transformed into active hostility toward the living, whose continued existence reminds them of what they have lost. These beings can influence events in the physical world through their desperate attempts to reclaim the experiences of embodied life, or to drag others into sharing their condition of eternal displacement. The relationship between the houseless dead and the various forms of necromancy practiced by servants of darkness reveals disturbing possibilities about how these wandering spirits can be recruited or coerced into serving purposes they would never have chosen during their mortal existence. Their hunger for connection to the physical world makes them vulnerable to manipulation by those who understand the mechanisms through which bodiless consciousness can be bound to external wills. The mystery of what prevents these souls from finding peace extends to questions about whether their condition represents genuine choice, spiritual damage that blocks their ability to respond to divine summons, or cosmic mercy that allows continued existence for consciousness that cannot bear the transition into whatever form of existence awaits beyond the circles of the world. The persistence of the houseless dead into the fourth age and beyond suggests that some mysteries about death and consciousness transcend even the great changes that reshape Middle-earth's political and spiritual landscape, representing eternal questions about the nature of identity, attachment, and the courage required to release our hold on familiar forms of existence when the time comes to embrace whatever transformation awaits. Tonight, as you rest in the growing quiet, let these mysteries remind you not of answers that remain forever beyond our reach, but of the beautiful complexity that consciousness brings to existence, the infinite depths that remain to be explored within even the most familiar aspects of reality. The questions that cannot be answered often prove more valuable than the knowledge we think we possess, opening our awareness to possibilities that certainty would close off. Sleep peacefully, knowing that mystery itself is a gift, that wonder remains available in every moment of attention, and that the deepest truths about existence reveal themselves not through explanation but through patient appreciation of all that remains beautifully, eternally unknown.